Frontline.
You're still watching Nbs Frontline with the leader of opposition parliament, member of parliament for Nyendo Mukungwe in Masaka City, the Honorable Matthias Mpuga, and the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, also member of parliament for Chinchizi East constituency, the Honorable Dr. Chris Baryomunsi. We're discussing projection for 2022, the political projection for 2022, what will look like. And someone here is from Hoima City and says, in Hoima, fuel prices actually between 7,000 and 10,000. And says this is official from the Shadow Minister for Energy and Mineral Development in that area. The prices are much higher. And you're saying Kalangala is about 6,000?
They have a Shadow Minister there.
Huh? He leads the Shadow Cabinet, doesn't he?
No, I'm saying the person from
Hoima. The Honorable Asnasi?
Yes. That's where the message is from.
So I thought the person had gone to the pump to see what the price was. He's just quoting what the Honorable Asnasi told him.
This is a political assistant to the...
So he should tell us what the pump price is in Hoima,
between 7,000
not what the politician has said.
Between 7,000 and 10,000.
Someone
says, Honorable Raymondsi, that it's embarrassing for Honorable Baryomunsi to admit that government is not performing, has not performed certain obligations because it's preoccupied with the Myoga, etc. That's because one man is micromanaging. The reason we have different government agencies is to avoid such excuses. There are specific bodies charged with different duties and each should perform the assigned roles. So another viewer called Ekuma David from Teso says, thanks Charles, honorable members in the studios and all listeners. Ugandans these days are unruly. You find wananchi fighting someone with a gun. Really? They even have a local saying that emitima jakaluba. Can we preach the gospel of respect for each other? How can you with no gun start fighting someone with a gun? What do you expect this policeman to do? Tumanyide government for real. Secondly, I am not happy with the decision taken to mix pregnant girls with some of these innocent girls. One is stigma. Secondly, is these other girls will think that it's okay to get pregnant at that age. They can be attended or helped differently by giving them the scholastic materials that they will just come and sit for scams. This is one of the major or most controversial discussions that have been going on. What government should do with girls who have become pregnant and whether they should be allowed back in school. I have my own views, but I won't share them here on that topic.
I will give you the government position.
Let me come to the Honorable Matthias Mpuga. Some of the major pressing issues beyond the politics, and from experience that we had in 2011 after that election, the walk-to-work protests, the economic situation can trigger a political crisis. Fuel at some places with these numbers that we're talking about, I don't know what the situation is in Masaka City, how much a litre of fuel is going for.
Well, for the bigger part, Masaka mirrors Kampala in major respects when it comes to the consumer price indices. But for me, that is a debate clothed in, again, what the Honourable Minister is avoiding, political controversy. And, you cannot fix the economy by propaganda and sloganeering. Fixing the economy to be able to, to absorb the shocks of economic disequilibria must be deliberate. And in being deliberate, you must be able to get your priorities right. You heard yesterday that Parliament was discussing the repair of State House at 12 billion, not the fixing of the health sector and the supporting of schools that are collapsing, and the helping of teachers to cope. Private schools not able to open, and the failure of government to meet a promise of 10 years or 15 years ago of a school per parish. And then you hear the kind of priorities. Just the debate about the economy cannot be separated from a major debate of fixing the country's politics. And when every time you try to run away from fixing the politics stupid, as the Americans want to call it, you're actually inadvertently saying that you're not fixing the economy. The economic equation, a major variable in the economic equation is politics. And the moment you fail to fix that, then at all times you're going to be spending money on trying to fix politics wrongly, the wrong way. I have had discussions like, when you do this, the election is going to be expensive. Democratic elections are never expensive. It's only in autocracies where elections are expensive. So because you have to hire machineries, pay whoever LOD used to run after your opponent, it becomes expensive. So if you're trying to steal an election, it's expensive. And unless we have had a very cogent and serious conversation about fixing the politics, and that will include undertaking major constitutional and electoral reforms. When you hear a Minister of Information denying that gap, then suddenly you are electing as a people and as a country that we are going to continue in this confusion, where the country's priorities are eternally wrong. I have been going through the BFP, the Budget Framework Paper, together with the NDP3 on my desk. They are at cross purposes. They are actually speaking different languages. And this explains the fact that there's no way you're going to get these priorities right. Because, again, you are fidgeting with regime longevity, you are fidgeting with this and that. Invariably, you are investing a lot of money in patronage, but not into the growth pose of the country to be able to create jobs. I am shocked that the Minister of Information has no idea, does not have on his fingertips how many jobs they want to create. Yet, one of the major challenges, if not the major challenges in this country, is unemployment. And you'd expect that perhaps in coming out with all these slogans, Mioga, Polish model, they have their eyes on a key deliverable, on jobs. So, unless we engaged, you see, once you fix politics, then you go into these minors and now that we have fixed the major disagreements in the country, because, Charles, the durability of a democracy shall inform the durability of our economic programs, which is why at every round of elections, new slogans come up. But when you evaluate how much the previous sloganeering achieved, it's zero. So you're going to be engaging in a zero-sum game of sloganeering, and then you want the population to believe, because you are printed 10 million shirts with a slogan, that actually the horizon, heralds, good tidings. When actually,
is sloganeering limited to the ruling party?
Because the ruling party collects taxes, makes a budget, and therefore must be the one to present priorities after evaluating the key needs of the country. But when you have a regime of 30 years, and we are stuck with ourselves in terms of the economy, then certainly there is a problem. The movements we talk about, this has changed, this is sluggish. How can you be in government for 30 years and you not have a country's fuel reserves? Where does that happen? Fuel reserves are a matter of national security.
But Honorable Mpuga,
and you see,
I hear you. I hear you. The question someone will ask you is, as a leader on the opposition side of the aisle of Parliament, as a political party, and your colleagues that you said you're consulting with, do you have a plan to change things? Is that plan concrete? Can you promise that between this period and the next election, you'll have addressed whatever hurdles stood in your way in the last election to be able to change things? Because I mean, listening to the stories of how government or the party in power is belligerent, won't give you way, won't help you to do anything, and you commenting about it, it doesn't satisfy a political agenda.
How have we stopped them?
No, I'm saying the opposition says that, but that doesn't satisfy someone who wants things to be better. And how do you promise?
Charles, we are we are not oblivious of our own challenges as the opposition. We have gaps. Some of them are obvious, others are not. And we are alive to the existence. And we rise every day to be better in terms of being able to protect our existence in whichever electoral system there could be. But in all, we are preoccupied in mobilizing the country to realize that we are late. We have lost generations, just generations of our age. Many of them are not as probably lucky as some of us, and therefore they have lived a life of frustration. And Chris will tell you that they have lived a life of bliss over the last 30 years. And for me, this is almost criminal. This is criminal. For you to have power and use that power for self-aggrandizement, and you fail to create jobs, fail to offer a decent education that can empower our people to be globally employable, to fail to fix the country's health system, that up to now, the health budget is 8%, and 80% of that is donor funded.
Let me go back to the question I put you. Let me go back to the question I put you. Do you have a concrete political plan that can deliver you to power so that you can change those things you call criminal?
Just concrete depends on where you stand. I can tell you, even over the last elections, our plan was concrete, and we actually won. And if you want to debate how our vote was stolen, that's another matter. We actually won, hands down. We even declared how much we got.
Yeah, but
if you want to remind the country, we got 54%.
You're not in power.
From where?
We are not in power.
Yes.
Because we are aware our history is such that people in military uniform have appropriated the people power.
So
which is why we work every day to empower the population.
Do you have a plan to turn those fortunes around?
Invariably not. Why would I be in this if I wake up to simply escort Chris and his accomplices to continue committing crime on citizens? You heard him speaking in jest a while ago, saying that the opposition has a huge budget. You ask him, how much is my budget, my office budget? How much is it, sir? That you can qualify it as huge.
It is the billions.
How much is it? You can recount billions.
You tell us. You are a very transparent person.
So you can see propaganda. It says that shadow ministers at once were paid more than government ministers.
Yes, I was a parliamentary commissioner.
How much were they getting?
How much were they being paid?
They were being paid 1.5 billion, and the government ministers...
1.5?
Go, hold on. You were asking me, now you want to answer. And the government ministers were getting 700,000. That is why we consolidated the basic pay with the subsistence allowance to make it 11 point something, because the responsibility allowance of government ministers is a percentage of that. That's how it came to about 2 million. I know.
You see,
I know what I'm talking about.
I think Chris disrespects viewers.
No.
Which shadow minister has a fuel card and a government car?
Okay. I was
Please
a parliamentary
have respect
commissioner.
for the viewers that you not.
How much do they get? How much do they get?
I'm asking you. If
no, you are disputing what I'm saying.
Let me state it. For the last 15 years, now 16 years,
yes,
a shadow minister gets 1.5 million as an allowance. For the last...
As an allowance.
So how different is it from what I have said?
Nothing extra.
How different is it from what I have said?
No, which shadow minister has a government car, fuel, and other allowances, airtime and others?
I haven't raised that.
Which shadow minister has a budget?
I can repeat it. I have said that the government facilitates the office of the leader of opposition and the shadow cabinet.
And is that a favor or so constitutional?
No. I'm saying because when a multi-party dispensation, we facilitate you to do what you are supposed to do. And are you doing it? We have different answers. I have just said that shadow ministers were being paid by government 1.5 million, when government ministers were getting 700,000. You have confirmed.
And the government minister has no other facilitation.
And now government ministers has been increased to 2 million because of the change
anyway,
made.
That's
how am I deceiving the public?
So 2 million plus car, plus fuel, plus...
other allowances.
Other allowances.
Which ones?
No, I'm asking.
Not you are pretending that you know which allowances. I've said they are paid like members of parliament.
No, Honorable Minister.
No.
Honorable Minister, I
pretend
think...
to know. I am telling you that the ministers
Honorable Minister,
are paid.
Honorable Minister,
Yes.
hold it a moment.
Yes.
Honorable Minister, I think we owe each other respect on the show.
No.
So to say,
If
I am
you don't know,
pretending
you ask.
to know
Yes.
when I'm asking you a question, instead of giving you the answer,
Yes.
I think it's unfair.
Then you ask me, what do they earn? When we say other allowances,
I
as
said,
if you know them. Yes.
you said government ministers are paid that. And I asked you the question, does that, and then on top of that, they have a car, it is fueled, and any other allowances. So what's the difficulty with
But I'm
that?
saying, which any other allowances do you know?
That's what I'm asking you.
No,
You're a
you should
minister,
have
I'm
asked,
not.
you should have asked, do they get any other allowance? Then I would have answered.
It's-
But when you say they are paid any other allowance,
It's actually the question I asked.
I think you are diverting us. This is even immaterial.
Yeah, it
Let
is
me-
material
yes.
because I was on the floor. Please sit. Do not
But you
try
know,
to
time is
intercept
not
my time.
on our
Yes,
side.
It's
So
not a monologue for
you
you.
must also give me chance to say.
No, you spoke
Go
at
ahead.
length. You spoke.
No,
Let me respond.
let him respond.
He says spoke
I
and
think,
said nothing.
I think in fairness, I put a question to you.
Yes.
You didn't answer the question.
Which one?
You bounced it off.
Which one?
You explaining, you raised the issue of the allowances and the payments.
Yes.
You are the one to raise it first. So please, explain it.
Now put the question properly. Which allowance?
I have asked a question.
Yes.
You tell me what government ministers get vis-a-vis what opposition shadow ministers get.
That's what I have answered. I'm saying it arose from the comment I made that the government facilitates the opposition in parliament to give alternative policies. You see, instead of coming here to harangue government, you should tell us that our view on the economy is ABCD. So what view has he given? This one reminds me of a question which was asked one of the presidential candidates. They said, if you become a president, what will be your fiscal policy? And started singing, "Tuliyambale ngule." That was his answer. That
Be
speaks-
respectful, Chris, to
No,
the
no, 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 no.
viewers. You risk
Yes,
being,
I am.
You risk being considered as actually comical
No,
and respectful of viewers.
that question was asked on the television.
And
No.
this is that.
Gentlemen,
Yes,
gentlemen.
we know the answer that he gave. So that speaks to what the understanding of the economy is from that party where LOP. If you have excellent views which you think can liberate Ugandans, you have a duty, you have an opportunity. You sit in parliament, present those views. Then Ugandans
And
will compare.
and you're
Stop
the
them.
Minister of Information in this
Just not
government,
done.
and you have not heard what you have presented.
Stop heckling. I'm guiding you now, helping you.
I don't need your
Then
guidance.
Ugandans will look at what the government is presenting and what the opposition is presenting, whether it represents a better future for them. I sit in the parliament. I have not heard those views
Honorable Minister,
being given.
you said...
And if you say that in the 30 years or so the NRM government has been leading this country, we have ways through which we measure the quality of life, the development indices. If you want us to go,
Minister, you
academic
raised,
and
we're
technical.
running out of time. You raised the issue and said you were a commissioner
Yes,
in Parliament.
yes,
You are a minister.
yes.
What is the package of allowances that ministers receive, the shadow cabinet receives, so that you can help answer that?
I can answer.
Yes.
First of all, ministers of government are paid as members of parliament, first and foremost. Two, ministers receive a responsibility allowance, which is, I think, 30% of their pay, basic pay, which translates to around 3 million for senior ministers, 2.4 for ministers of state. And as he has confirmed, the shadow ministers get 1.5 million as a responsibility allowance. But the office of the leader of opposition is, I can say, is fairly well funded to facilitate his office and the shadow cabinet to bring particularly alternative policy views in parliament. And I'm challenging him that instead of coming here and quarreling, government has done nothing. Tell Ugandans that if we're in government, this is how we would run the economy. Then Ugandans out there will say, oh, I think the NRM government is doing it the wrong way. The better way is by NUP.
Okay.
And I'm saying, I sit in the parliament with him. I don't feel those alternative views coming out from the opposition. That's why you correctly said Ugandans are saying, is this opposition representing us? And you can also do your soul searching, whether you think you are doing your best as the opposition. For us, we have a legislative agenda, which the Prime Minister tabled. I think she tabled 14 or 15 bills. 4 have already been passed, and 2 of them are sent to by the President. We are going to push the rest of the bills in the Parliament and do our best to see that Parliament moves, but most importantly, we get on the ground to address service delivery. The person who was saying that I am not serious, that some departments of government are not working, I was saying our priorities are on service delivery. The electoral reforms are not as urgent as to be handled tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Our time is out. We need to get out of here. I'll take a message from on Twitter from Luchamuzi Joseph Kabaka's man, who says, if you want to appreciate the current opposition in Parliament, you check out how the East African crude oil pipeline bill has progressed. That's from that gentleman. And yeah, someone else is talking about the prices of petrol in oil, I mean fuel in some places.
We didn't answer that.
Yes, we haven't answered that. But we have, you said that you will comment about government's position on the pregnant girls. I'd like to give you an opportunity to do that, and then we'll come to Matthias Impoga and end the show.
Yes, we had the misfortune that during the COVID lockdown, part of the challenges were that our young girls got pregnant. We have teenage mothers, and our position as a government is that they should be enabled to get back to school. I have seen and heard a comment from a religious leader saying that these girls should not get back to school. That's not correct. We don't agree with that view as government. We think the young girls should be given an opportunity to get back to school. In any case, even the children of religious leaders, even as politicians, can fall into that challenge. And therefore, to suggest that the future of this young girl should just end there simply because she got pregnant is not correct in our view. And we would want to urge our schools, whether they are church-based or privately owned, to allow and give an opportunity, give a chance to these young girls and the responsible boys to get back to schools, because getting pregnant, giving birth at an early age should not be a condemnation that somebody should be condemned to that destitute.
Have you considered what some critics have said, that the impact on the other children in school?
Well,
people have talked about stigma, have talked about so many other things.
Yes, there are those attendant challenges associated, but the school system should be able to provide the counseling and the proper dissemination of information so that the other children can be able to understand. But for you to say that because a young girl has gotten pregnant and therefore she should never access education again is not a correct position in our view as government.
Okay.
And we shall do everything possible to ensure that we enable those young girls.
I think critics have said that you keep those girls away, they give birth, and then they can come back to school. Is that something you have considered as well?
Well, all those are options, but the major point is that they should be enabled to continue with their formal education.
Honorable Mpoga, I'd like to get your view on that very contentious subject, and also wrap up the closing. If I have a minute, I'll bring it back to the minister to talk about Kakwenza, but he's been charged. So, I mean, he's appeared in court at least. There was a response that...
initially, it's not good manners to make an old man like Dr. Chris look funny, but I want to advise him to eat humble pie, tiptoe, go on my website, and read all the policy documents we have issued on the floor of Parliament, on health, on education, alternative development approach. When we issued the parish model, which up to now has no guidelines, we have issued statements on the economy, their tax mobilization or revenue mobilization for the economy. Kindly tiptoe and go and read them.
If I were you, so I would make sure the peasant in Kanungu understands those things on the website.
Gentlemen, our time is out.
I'm advising you.
Yes,
because you said you sit in Parliament. The fact that you never heard them It speaks a lot about your knowledge of Parliament.
Honorable Mpuga,
Okay.
both of
And
you,
let me make
both
a
of you sit in
statement.
Parliament.
Me on how to be a parliamentarian.
We can take part of that discussion offline.
Let me
yes.
take my
Just
position
respond to
clear.
that.
In our statement, which actually I read, it's the last statement I read on the floor of Parliament before we went into the recess on education, we clearly stated that there is a duty of government to find a proper framework to be able to house these compromised young girls so that they can have a future. We advise the government using the government systems to find a framework of orienting teachers to be able to adopt this new emerging community challenge. And our view is that they should be supported to continue with the education. How it is done is a matter of education planners. It's not a matter of propagandists and the sloganeers. The education planners can evolve a plan, and it's not, and we are advised, and they are there, and they are paid. So that, but the principle is they should be supported to continue.
So
with
there,
the
you
education.
agree with us, basically.
Okay, but yours has no plan. You simply issue statements. They must be in class. How and what have you educated the teachers on how to handle child mothers, on how to handle kids that look like them, or you are simply issuing blanket statements without the support tools? Have you given them support, psychosocial, to be able to deal with emerging educational challenges as government? We are easily threatening them.
But you have acknowledged we have planners in the government.
Is that your
so-
closing statement?
No, I mean, if you want me to speak for the
You have
next 10
acknowledged we
hours,
have
I'm
planners in the government.
All
so-
I'm saying, all I want to say is that as the opposition in Parliament, we are on top of our game. How one sees it is their right to see it the way they want to see it. I'm not going to do it in a way that makes Dr. Chris and others like him happy. I will do it the way we want to do it, and we shall continue to do it because we have an agenda, and this agenda is after proper
not say voter.
thinking. And we are not about to do what Chris wants us to do that he is happy.
So in 2022, we're likely to see a more vibrant opposition parliament.
Invariably, yes. Remember, Chris, I am leading a team, in charge, that 80% are young and new members of Parliament. And they have to undergo. Parliament is unforgiving. You dip into you end up with the deeper waters on day one. But we needed some, moment to support these members to be able to appreciate the kind of task at hand. And we have gone over that. Okay. I believe we should be able to see us moving better, moving issues. We said we are not going to be responding to what government says. We are agenda setters, and we have set the agenda on so many issues that government is following. But it's not humble enough to say, yes, the opposition moved this, and we followed.
Okay. Maybe just one last thing for you. I saw a handwritten letter. I don't know if it's legit or not, from two of your colleagues who are incarcerated. Have you received it? Is it a legit letter? I've seen it on social media.
I've been to Chigo today.
Yes.
And visited with these colleagues, and we have not raised the issues that I've seen in the purported letter.
Okay, but you've seen the purported letter?
I have seen it,
yes.
But I had a whole hour with them discussing their plight, their health conditions, and that never came up.
Okay.
But I know that there are groups of people who want to drive a wedge into the way we work, and they will stop at nothing in trying to portray NUP as divided, as what. It's their business. That's what their bankrollers pay them to do. But the beauty is that some of us have been at that, and we have skin thick enough to deal with those shocks when they are.
Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you very much for making time for the show. I need to apologize to our viewers that we had none of the regular frontliners. One of our frontliners, I think, has had personal challenges. I think family bereavement, Fonopondo, and the Honorable Norbert Ma was unable to make it because he was on engagement as leader of his political party outside of the city and wasn't able to get back in time for the show. I would like to thank very much the Honorable Dr. Chris Baryomunsi and the Honorable Matthias Mpuga for the engagement we've had. Quite an interesting engagement this evening on the front line, a real front line. That we need.
Sometimes people ask, when you leave the studio, do you fight outside? And they say, no, we laugh and move on.
Great. Thank you very much to you, all our viewers, for joining us tonight and always, and especially those of you who give us feedback. Fred, I think in Muyanga, I've just seen your message. Thank you for sending it. And let me see just one other person who sent a message that I need to mention here before we get out. Yes, Aaron Ishenyondo and Anthony Mayanja. I got your messages, and thank you very much for watching the show. Thank you very much to the production crew that stay up late to deliver this show to you. For me, it is actually a good morning.
Thank you very much. And thank you.
Nbs Frontline.